Everyone, so Professor Claire Vasson will give her third lecture today on zero cycles and decomposition of the diagonal.
So I first finish what I started yesterday. So I had considered the Artin-Mumford invariant and another invariant, another geometrically defined invariant, which was the torsion of the group H4 of XZ modulo its algebraic part. And I explained that there is a general formalism of unramified cohomology which interprets these two invariants as, in fact, so here I have to assume that X is rationally connected, or CH0 of X is trivial is enough. This is unramified cohomology with torsion coefficient, and here it's unramified cohomology. So with torsion coefficient, this isomorphism was this theorem that I explained yesterday, proved with Colliot-Helen. Another thing that I have explained that these unramified cohomology groups, due to the Bloch-Kato conjecture, they vanish for positive I and X rationally connected, or C0 of X trivial. So I just want to finish this part of the lecture by explaining what is known about vanishing and non-vanishing. In fact, in the first lecture, when I say vanishing and non-vanishing, I mean vanishing and non-vanishing, particularly for rationally connected or unirational varieties, because it's the topic of the lecture is finding stable birational invariants. The important point here is that this provides a stable birational invariant. So vanishing and non-vanishing in this context, in the first lecture I mentioned that this group can be non-zero for some unirational varieties. This is the famous Artin-Mumford. And it works already for some variety which has a dimension 3. And then for this one, the first known example goes back to Colliot-Helen and Olanguren. So this was in the, I think, this is the same paper where they introduced the unramified cohomology. And their example had a dimension 6. It's a three-dimensional quadric bundle over P3. And they were able to show, what is nice is that these people, they have techniques to compute directly unramified cohomology. So they were really attacking the problem from that viewpoint. I explained yesterday this formula describing this group as really a group of cohomology classes defined on the generic point with no residues. This is really what they do. And finally, as the byproduct of our paper with, which is much more recent with Colliot-Helen, it turns out that these examples also provided examples of rationally connected varieties of dimension 6 with a non-trivial defect of the integral Hodge conjecture. So there is a certain integral Hodge class of degree 4, which is a non-algebraic on them. And then this such a non-vanishing result has been improved recently by Schreier. And now he has an example of the same phenomena where the dimension of X is 4. So that gives an example of rationally connected fourfold, which has a non-algebraic integral Hodge class of degree 4. But again, the computation is via unramified cohomology. So this is for the non-vanishing. And this is saying that there's invariance, and of course you can expect also a higher degree unramified cohomology to produce also interesting invariants. So these non-vanishing, they contribute to negative answers to the stable Lurot problem because they are stable birational invariants. But now there are also some vanishing results. Of course, I mean with torsion coefficient, because with an integral coefficient we will see nothing. But the general vanishing it is important to know, it's an observation that I could have made yesterday, is the fact that now it's true for any x and any group of coefficients. The unramified cohomology of x with value in A vanishes for I larger than the dimension of x. And the reason is simple. I just have to recall the definition that this is H0 of x zar with value in the sheaf Hi of A. This sheaf Hi of A, it is the sheaf associated to the pre-sheaf which to U maps, which to U associates Hi of U1 with coefficient in A. The point is that this pre-sheaf, this sheaf, in fact, it is trivial. For I greater than the dimension of x, because you can take the basis of Zariski open sets, the affine open sets of x, and then we know that such a U has a homotopy tape of real CW complex of a dimension non greater than n. So there is no, so for affine U, this will vanish for I at least n, and so as a conclusion, the sheaf vanishes. So we have this vanishing, and now there is another specific vanishing, which now I come back to this context of x being rationally connected and the coefficient being a torsion. This is the following result. So now dimension of x is 3 and x rationally connected. Then I proved in, I think that was in 2006, that in fact in that case the Boole cohomology of x of degree 4 is made of Hodge classes, and I show that it is completely algebraic. And so, in particular, that is saying that the 4 of x is a 0, and that gives one vanishing. So I am not going to prove this. This is a very geometric proof. Simply the question I wanted to ask, if you contemplate all these vanishing and non-vanishing results, there is one possibility that is left, and I am not sure if it is just a coincidence or what. So the question is this. So it might be that if x is x rationally connected of dimension n implies that this group for this group vanishes for any set of coefficients. So the important case, of course, is Q over Z. Well, of course, this is what is left open by this result, but the problem is that, of course, the higher degree ramified cohomology becomes more and more complicated to compute when the degree becomes higher. So I'm not sure. So I just wanted to ask this question. So that's it for the end of yesterday's lecture. And now I want to come to the main new contribution to this general subject of stable birational invariant, which is the idea of using the notion of decomposition of the diagonal, which itself, the origin of the idea is in the work of Bloch and Srinivas, and it played a very important role in the theory of algebraic cycles, because it started with the new proof by Bloch and Srinivas of the Mumford theorem relating assumptions on algebraic cycles to assumptions on the cohomology. So the main idea is to use that same notion to apply it to the construction of interesting stable birational invariants. So maybe I should start a new Blackboard. So X smooth of dimension n. Very quickly it will be also projective, but maybe you don't need it for the moment. I say that X has a Chow decomposition of the diagonal. If so you consider the diagonal delta x, which is contained in X cross X. So this is a subvariety of X, algebraic subvariety of X, of dimension n, or codimension n also. And so I choose a point, and point over C, everything is over C. And the definition will be independent of the choice of point. And I want to have this identity. In a group of codimension n cycles of X modulo rational equivalence. I'll say in a minute what it is. And the important point of the definition is that I want that the cycle Z has a property that it does not dominate X by the first projection. So equivalently, it is a cycle which is supported. So it's a cycle, codimension n cycle, which is supported on D cross X, where D is a proper closed algebraic subset. So if you know what is known as the localization exact sequence for Chow groups, an equivalent way of saying this is that delta X minus X cross X, so this is an n cycle, now you restrict it to U cross X, is 0. So in Chn of U cross X, where U is the complement of so now I understand that this definition is not pleasant if you don't know what are the Chow groups. So first of all, I am going to give you the analogous definition in cohomology, and in fact in practice the definition in cohomology is as useful. So you can then forget about Chow groups. And then I will say a word about what Chow groups look like. They are not so, they are very easy to define and very, very hard to compute. So on the definition, so here this was the notion of Chow decomposition, and X has a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. If now essentially that will be the same definition, except that we want this equality not to hold in Chow, but in cohomology. So here, these are all algebraic cycles, so that is combinations of closed algebraic subsets with integral coefficients, and I consider their cycle classes. Okay. Again, where Z is supported. On D cross X for some proper closed algebraic subsets. Okay, so of course, yes, so let me first say what is a Chow and how it will be used. So Chow group, CHI of Y, the same as CH of dimension of Y. I will consider mostly smooth algebraic varieties in that lecture. Okay. So by definition, it's so you consider the I of Y, so it's the free abelian group generated by. So that is, you have one letter for each subvariety or irreducible algebraic subset closed algebraic subset of codimension I. Okay. And you quotient it by the subgroup. Okay. And this is of cycles which are rationally equivalent to 0, which is, so this is a subgroup which is generated as follows. So for each subvariety of Y, everything can be singular. Now you consider subvarieties of codimension I minus 1. And for a rational function on W, non-zero rational function, you consider essentially the divisor of that rational function. And that gives you a codimension I cycle on Y. So I am cheating a little because your W here could be not normal, so maybe you have to normalize it in order to define the divisor of F. That's not very important. So this is how it is defined. Maybe I should also mention that well, in between, we could also define cycles modulo algebraic equivalence, which already appeared yesterday. Namely, there's a group of, so now you take again a group of codimension I cycles modulo those which are algebraically equivalent to 0. And these ones, they are obtained as follows. So this is a group which is generated by, so for each curve C, that's smooth projective. Now you consider correspondence like this, so that is the gamma containing C cross Y as a codimension Y. It's a closed algebraic. You will consider the gamma. In fact, well, maybe consider like gamma c minus gamma c prime for c, c prime, and c. So that is, you consider the fibers of this gamma over 2 points and take the difference. Well, I don't want to say too much about this group because at the end they won't play a very important role. The only thing to know is that this group is comparatively small because it's always countable. While these groups are known to be very, very large in general. So the only thing that I want that is important for the lecture is how we can work with them. So namely, we have the functoriality properties. Concerning the Chow groups, and also the group of cycles modulo algebraic equivalent. Namely, if you have a phi morphism, so the projective morphism, you have a phi lower star. This is just really defined already at the level of a group of cycles, not modulo rational equivalent. This simply maps Z to essentially the image of Z that you have to count with a degree, namely the degree of Z over its image. So you have this, and the other important fact is that you have an intersection product. Z, so of course on the Chow groups of Y, assuming that Y is smooth. Okay. That is to Z prime, you can associate an intersection of cycles, Z dot Z prime, which is of course which is compatible with the grading, so CHK transfer CHL to CHK plus L. Maybe slightly more importantly, there is the Fulton refined intersection theory, which allows to define this intersection Z dot Z prime as supported on, because of course at the end we want the Z dot Z prime geometrically, it means that we take the intersection. But when it is less clear is when the intersection is not proper and does not provide something of the right codimension. So what does Fulton is that he is able to define this intersection as supported on Z intersected with Z prime. So maybe the most subtle thing in the theory. And finally, the last important point is that there is a cycle class map. Okay, which to Z associate Z, and it is a cycle class map defined on cycles, and you observe that very clearly the cycles which are rationally equivalent to zero, they are homologous to zero. Okay, and so because of the existence of this cycle class, finally, you see that the existence of a Chow decomposition of diagonal implies the existence of a cohomological decomposition of diagonal. So by taking cycle classes. Okay. So, well, the last point I wanted to say before coming to the application to stable rational equivalence is this. So the remark is so if X, let's assume is a smooth projective. as a Chow decomposition of the diagonal, then CH0 of x is generated by the point x. And the reason is that now using all these functoriality properties that I have explained here, I can, where is it? Okay. So, I have an action of correspondences of on cycles. So correspondences gamma. So codimension n equals the dimension of x act on ch of x using all these functorialities by. So if you have a cycle z, you will map it to gamma lower star of z, which is, so you take P2 lower star of P1 upper star z. Well, P1 upper star is just the inverse image. It's one of the functoriality properties, but it follows from the existence of the intersection product. So P1 upper star z intersected with gamma. Okay, so now let act this correspondence on CH0. So the left hand side, it is the diagonal. So I will have delta x lower star of z, which is a z. The diagonal acts as the identity. And now the left hand side, it turns out that the z lower star z will be 0 for z, a zero cycle, precisely because of the property of capital Z, that it is supported on D cross X. So it will avoid a zero cycle simply by dimension reason, or by movability, if you like. And so on the left, on the right hand side, I have only to understand the action of this. But the action of this is totally obvious. It's just degree of z times x. And this is an equality in CH0 of x. Okay? So this is for the remark. And then another remark, which is well, of course, more than a remark. It's the fact that conversely, there is a sort of almost converse to that statement. This is a theorem due to Bloch and Srinivas. I think it's, I never remember. So they say that now it's very important here to be oversee, or at least of the big field, that CH0 of x equal to z. That is not going to imply the existence of a Chow decomposition on the diagonal. This is going to imply that there exists a Chow decomposition of the diagonal with rational coefficients. Or if you prefer, there exists a Chow decomposition of the diagonal with z of n times the diagonal. Now I will stay with z coefficient, but it's only n times the diagonal, which will be decomposed. Again, this one supported on d cross x. So now, from the beginning, I am working with rationally connected or unirational varieties. They are all satisfying this condition. So that means that the subject of the lecture is not, it's really on the definition of the decomposition of the diagonal with Q coefficient and the decomposition of the diagonal with Z coefficient. So, okay, so now I come to, and that distinction between Q coefficient and Z coefficient is more important for the lecture than the difference between Chow groups and cohomology. Maybe let me keep this for the moment. So now, why the notion is relevant for the subject? It's because we have the following theorem, or proposition, is because it's very easy. Having a Chow decomposition or a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal is stably birationally invariant property. Of X smooth projective. Okay, so let me prove this. So first of all, I want to study what happens when I replace X by X cross projective space. Now the fact is that PR or CPR has a Chow decomposition of diagonal because there is a projective bundle formula. We know perfectly the Chow groups of PR and of PR cross PR. So in fact, the delta PR is exactly the same formula as in cohomology because the Chow groups and the cohomology are the same for projective space. So it's a sigma for I equals 0 to R of H1 to the I, H2 to the R minus I, where H1 is the class, so it's a hyperplane class, it's a class of a divisor, a class of a hyperplane section. So it's P1 upper star of the class of a hyperplane divisor in and H2, of course, is it's a P2 upper star of this hyperplane class. Okay, so and this formula, obviously, so this is an equality in CHR of PR cross PR. And it is even stronger. You isolate the first term will give a PR cross point, and all the other terms they are supported over H1, so they are absorbed by the term Z that is written. Okay. So, but of course I can do this over X cross. So this implies that if X has a decomposition of diagonal. So now here I am not specifying Chow or cohomological because the arguments are exactly the same. Then X cross PR also has, and in the other direction. So now you suppose that you have a X cross PR. Cross X cross PR, you have your decomposition of the diagonal of X cross PR. Okay, so you will get that it is X cross PR cross a point plus a cycle Z, which is supported on D cross X cross PR. And then what you do is that you choose a point O in PR, and you intersect this equality, so this equality is in CH of X cross PR cross X cross PR. And so you intersect this with X cross O cross X cross PR. And then project to, of course, you project from this to X cross X. And then you see easily that that gives a decomposition of the diagonal for X itself. So that gives you the invariance under this operation. And the invariance under the, now I have to show that the property is birationally invariant. And this is still easier. So now I have X and Y, which are birational, and I want to show that if X has the decomposition of the diagonal, if and only if Y has the decomposition of the diagonal. And so now I can use desynchronization. So I do not need to specify that this is obtained by blow-up. In any case, by desynchronization, I can find X tilde, which is also smooth and projective, and which maps to both X and Y by a degree 1. And so finally, because of this, we are reduced to the case where we actually have a morphism like this of degree 1. We say X has the decomposition of the diagonal if and only if X tilde has, if only if Y has. And in that case, this is really elementary because of the two formulas. Delta Y is obviously phi lower star of delta X. So this is an equality in Chow. And if you don't like Chow, you can consider it in cohomology. Okay, so now it's and both are of the same dimension n. And in the other direction, it's here that you may need a little refined intersection theory of Fulton, or maybe less, in fact. So this equality is simply, it uses the fact that the morphism has degree 1, because this phi lower star is just really you push forward the diagonal of X. And then what you get is the image of the diagonal of X. This has to be counted, so it's counted with the degree of X over Y. So, and in the other direction, I get that I have this plus, and here there is a residual cycle R. But this equality, it is true, at least where phi is an isomorphism. Because otherwise, of course, you just get a fiber product over X, so that's not good. So, and so the residual cycle R, it is supported on A cross A. So this is inequality in Chn of X cross X. And the R, it is supported on A cross A, where A is the exceptional divisor of phi. Okay, so this is the locus where phi is not an isomorphism over Y. Okay, and then now the point is that these two formulas together, they will really imply that the delta x, x the Chow decomposition of the diagonal if and only if y has a Chow decomposition. For this case, it is obvious because you simply push forward the decomposition of the diagonal you have for x, and for this case, you pull back the decomposition of the diagonal you have for y, and then you simply add this cycle, but this cycle R, you put it inside the Z because you know it is supported on E cross something. Okay, so that's why this is an important variant to investigate. One thing that I would like to mention, so of course I explained this this result of Bloch and Srinivas, which is in fact stronger, but because our setting is that of rationally connected varieties or unirational varieties, you can observe directly that the same proof gives the following. If x is unirational, I would say of degree n, in the sense that there exists a dominant rational map, rational morphism phi of degree n. Then n, so n times the diagonal decomposes as n times x cross x plus the z. Okay, again with the z supported. And this is simply by the argument I gave here. Just do y equal projective space, but now you don't have a phi which is of degree 1, but of degree n. And then you of course you have to desingularize, but the fact is that the only difference is that here you will not get the diagonal of x itself, but the diagonal multiplied by the degree. And because for the Pn blown up, you have a decomposition of the diagonal, that will give the result. Okay, so this is exactly on the fact that this degree here appears, that we hope to use this decomposition of the diagonal for some interesting consequences. Okay, so now I want to relate this decomposition of the diagonal with the two other invariants that we have met before. And this already appears in the cohomological setting, where I just have a cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. And of course, it may become stronger if I have a Chow decomposition of the diagonal. So of decomposition of the diagonal. So, well, so the first theorem, it is due to Bloch and Srinivas. Exactly, that was really the first, the first result, which proved the importance of that notion. So, if x has now it's a Q homological decomposition of the diagonal. Then the form, differential forms, I0 of x, so this is H0 of x omega x to the I, is 0 for I strictly positive. So Q homological decomposition of the diagonal, it's the decomposition of the diagonal in when you take cycle classes and in Betti homology with a Q coefficient. Okay, so now if X has a homological decomposition of the diagonal, then, and here it's really with the integral coefficient, the group the Artin-Mumford invariant, the torsion of H3 of X Z is 0, and Z4 of X is 0. So I should say here that part of the conclusion was already obtained by Bloch and Srinivas, who proved that the Hodge conjecture holds for rational Hodge classes of degree 4. Okay, so this is a rational, and here, of course, with no surprise, if you have now an integral decomposition, then you get the same result with the coefficient. And the last thing I wanted to say, so maybe let me reserve for another statement. I want to show also that you may have a stronger consequence of tau decomposition of the diagonal. But let me prove this first quickly. So proof. So in the case 1, so I will have that delta x is x cross x plus z, which is in H2n of x cross x q, and everything is with the q coefficient. So this cycle here might be with the q coefficient, and the z here. So z is supported on d cross x, and what I can do is that desingularize. I can desingularize this d. So let's assume that the d is the hypersurface in x. It might be singular, but I can desingularize it like this. And I can do that also assuming that the z leads to a cycle z tilde. Z tilde supported on d tilde cross x. It's a very small point. Usually when you have a cycle in a singular variety and you desingularize the variety, the cycle may not lift. The reason is stupid, is that if the variety is not normal and your cycle is supported on the non-normal locus, what may happen is that you have something like this, the cycle is here, and when you normalize, you separate the two branches, and the cycle upstairs, it will have only a non-trivial cover of it will appear. But here I don't care because I can certainly assume that my D is generically smooth along the support of Z. D is just have to be a proper subset. So that's why I can have this lifting. And then this equation here is better written as delta x. Okay, so now the reason I introduced this desingulation is that now I am working with a smooth variety here, and so I can take a cycle class in it. You are not allowed to take cycle classes in cohomology if you are working with a singular variety. And of course, if I am in this setting, same reformulation, except that I will be in with the coefficient. And so, okay, so that now that that gives me the proof of 1 and 2 as follows. So now you let this equality here act on h star of x. So for 1 that will be with q coefficient, and for 2 that will be with z coefficient. So now the action is what I call the upper star action. So if I have a class gamma upper star of alpha, that will be P1 lower star of P2 upper star alpha, cup product with a class of gamma. So we will consider this action. Now the diagonal, as always, it acts by the identity. So so I get that alpha is now if this term, it will act trivially if the degree of alpha is positive, so because it factors through the restriction to the point, okay, and so now I have to understand what is this, but this is simply G lower star of Z tilde upper star of alpha. And the point is that this class, it belongs to H, so now maybe I should have given a degree, so maybe L. And the point is that this class belongs to HL minus 2 of and of course, if I was in the situation 2, I will replace the Q by a Z and have the same thing. Okay, so now so for the proof of 1, it's obvious because now this is saying that this equality that I have here, it is saying that the whole positive degree cohomology of my X is supported on this d tilde, or it comes from this G lower star map. This G lower star map, G lower star, it is a morphism the morphism of Rogers structures which shift the by degree, the Hodge tape by 1, 1. So in its image, so you cannot have a HI0. Okay, so this is for 1, and for 2. Now this equality that I have here, so okay. So now this equality here, it holds with the coefficients. Okay. So now suppose that you have alpha in H3 of the torsion. I get that alpha is equal to G lower star of G tilde upper star alpha. And this one, it will belong to the torsion of H1 of E tilde D tilde Z. And as I already used several times, this torsion is 0. And so I compute that alpha is equal to 0. Okay, so in some sense, this is the same kind of argument that have been used previously to show stable birational invariance of these quantities, but written in a more general way with a different formalism. And similarly, so I want to show that the Z4 of X is 0. So if alpha is this, suppose that I have alpha, which is now, I want to show that any integral Hodge class is algebraic. Okay. So now I have alpha, which is G lower star of Z tilde upper star of alpha. And this is a Hodge, integral Hodge class on the D tilde. But this is algebraic. By the Lefschetz 1-1 theorem, which holds with the Z coefficient. And because it is algebraic, you get, well, I didn't say it, but the cycle class map, it is compatible with all the functorialities, Gysin push forward, pull back, and intersection. Okay. So finally, this class is algebraic, so this one is algebraic. Okay, so the last, maybe very few minutes, I would like to mention another question. Yes, first of all, one statement, maybe I won't insist on that, but this is exactly the same kind of proof. This theorem, if X has a Chow decomposition of diagonal, then all the unramified cohomology groups vanish in a positive degree. So I don't want to explain the proof. It's the same, exactly the same strategy or same mechanism of proof, but on needs certain functoriality. The point is that one has to know that simply the Chow groups, they act on unramified cohomology. And the reason they act is via the Bloch-Huggers formula. In fact, they act via their class in Hn of script Hn, which is their class modulo algebraic equivalence. And then you can see it's not hard formalism to show that classes in Hn of Hn, they will act. Okay, so we have, and so that implies this. So now the question is this. So assume X has a Chow, so the cohomological decomposition of the diagonal. Is it true that X has a Chow decomposition of diagonal? So a priori, the Chow decomposition of the diagonal seems to be much stronger, but in fact, that question is really subtle, because so with Q coefficient, this is expected to be true. And so let me explain this quickly. It's because you write your cohomological decomposition of the diagonal in the following form. Okay, so they are all cycles, so this is an equality in H to n of x cross x Q. And the condition is, of course, again on Z, that Z is supported on D cross X. And now there is this famous nilpotence conjecture, which is more or less announced by Ayub. Well, we expect it to be proved. But it is still a conjecture up to now. If I have a gamma in Chn of x cross x Q, with which is a trivial cohomologically, so in cohomology with Q coefficient, then some power of so the gamma is nilpotent in the ring of correspondences. For some n. So now, assuming the nilpotence conjecture, so we have this equality here. So you have that a certain power is will vanish in Chow groups with Q coefficients. But the point is that a cycle of this form, it is well, you easily compute the power because the composing with this object is very, very easy. Okay, and it has the same form. And so maybe it's the same, even the same D. So the conclusion is that this power, in fact, it will give this vanishing here, will give you the composition of the diagonal, this Q coefficient for X. And with Z coefficients, it's really a mystery for me. In particular, a related question is whether this nilpotence conjecture is expected to hold with Z coefficient. And I don't believe so, in particular, because there is another notion of nilpotence, which is a smash nilpotence, where instead of having correspondences and taking their powers, you just consider a cycle Z in X, and you consider Z to the K in CH X to the K, and smash nilpotence is that some power vanishes in that sense. And with Soulet, we constructed examples of cycles which are cohomologous to zero, but not smash nilpotence. So that suggests, maybe I am wrong, that maybe the nilpotence conjecture is not true with Z coefficients, and maybe the answer to that question is no with the Z coefficients. Okay, sorry for.
Are there any questions?
Sorry?
The question if X is a surface.
You're right. So assuming the block conjecture, so it's a result of mine. It's, so the result is suppose that S over C, suppose that CH0 of S is Z. So then we know that it has a Chow decomposition of the diagonal with a Q coefficient. And so the result is that if S has a cohomological decomposition of diagonal, And the trick is to pass through, the fact is that this nilpotent conjecture, it is true with the Z coefficient for cycles which are algebraically equivalent to 0. So this is the result which is due to Vojevodsky and myself. The fact that it is true with Z coefficient was maybe not emphasized enough at that time, but it turns out that it is true in that case. And then the point is that no, the other crucial point is that if you know that your surface has a trivial CH0, you consider now cycles in S cross S. If they are cohomologous to 0, they are algebraically equivalent to 0, and that's a very deep result of Bloch and Srinivas. So then the conclusion works very well because I apply this to this. I know it to be cohomologous to 0, so it is algebraically equivalent to 0. So the nilpotent conjecture applied, and then the S has a Chow decomposition of the diagonal. But you see that involves ingredients which are very specific to that dimension, namely this very beautiful result of Bloch and Srinivas.
Let's thank this.